Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Williamson, and I'm here to share with you the Sage 300 Operations Suite. Right now, we're going to start with the project and job cost overview. I've been working with project and job cost since 2005 when I first got my training and wrote my exams. And so I've implemented a number of different types of projects and jobs over the years. And yeah, it's a very interesting module, but complicated. I'm just going to close off my camera now that you know I'm here so that I can focus on the slides. So the topics today, we're going to cover the options and the structure. We're going to cover the modules that are integrated. We're going to do an overview of a contract, projects, and a little bit about transaction entry options and reporting. It's very large range of things that we can cover in job costs. So this is really a Reader's Digest. The screen that you see here is an example of the process flow that we have in Sage 300 for all the modules. And this is a screenshot of the process flow for project job cost, or PJC for short. The thing I like about this for our presentation is it gives you an idea of the transaction flow. And it allows the user to click on the buttons and open the related menus. So as you can see here, we do have different types of transactions. We have the contract maintenance, then we have the transactions within project and job cost. We have other modules that are supported, such as anything can almost go through accounts payable. But we also have purchase orders, accounts receivables for billing, and order entry also for billing and shipments. There's the opportunity to create billing worksheets based on your entries of your costs and generate an invoice that then goes over to accounts receivable. And then at the end of the day, a month or a year, you can run your revenue recognition. Now this is a whole world unto itself, but essentially it's how we can match the costs to the revenue and show an actual profit margin for the project as opposed to by the fiscal period or even the fiscal year. There's a good number of reports that come with the system, and there's lots of other reporting options, both in intelligence as well as some custom reporting. And then the other thing I want to point out is that we also have the ability to integrate with the Canadian payroll. Now, most of our clients prefer to enter their timesheets in payroll and shoot them over to the project and job cost, but it is possible to do it the other way around as well. So I'm going to take you over to my other screen, and we're going to take a look at the software. Okay, so the system is set up in the background under the hood. There's actually 3 levels that are set up in the system. This structure is not optional. However, you can change the names of them. So the system ships with contract, project, and category, but you can change this to anything you want. If you prefer to call it a job, or you want to call it a project, or the project phase is often called a phase instead of project. Essentially, level 1, the contract, is like it says, it identifies the contract details that are involved with the entity. And then the project level is what I like to call the revenue level or the billing level. So your projects can be set up with various phases and levels and different revenue accounts. And then with each of those, you can then have your costs or your categories. Now, I'm going to cover this a little more detail here in a moment when we look at one of our contracts. These are the defaults that we can set up for the system. So we do have the ability to track labor burden for your benefits on payroll entries. We have the ability calculate overhead costs, either about a flat rate per unit or by percentage. And then we also have different accounting methods. Now, these accounting methods drive how the revenue recognition is done. And there's lots of different percentage completes. The primary ones are completed project, billings and costs, and accrual basis. Mostly builders and that type of industry will use the percentage completes in different kinds. But essentially, these are all putting the costs into a work in progress account on the balance sheet, the billings into a deferred revenue account on the balance sheet. And then when you're ready, you run your revenue recognition at the bottom, either monthly, weekly, or at the end of the project if you prefer. And this is what actually does the journal entry to move those entries off the balance sheet into your income statement. And of course, one of our most popular methods is the accrual basis, which basically means there is no revenue recognition. It just puts everything straight through to the income statement as you wish. Okay, so I'm going to show you what a contract looks like. Now, if you find that the printing is a little too small, there should be a magnifying glass over on the right-hand side there, and you can hit the up and down arrows to get it sized so that you can kind of see what's going on here. So we have a couple different ways of looking at these contracts. We can look at it through the form view, I guess you'd say, which is right here with the tabs. And we can also look at it with the tree on the left-hand side. You see at the top, I have the contract number and the description, as well as a status for this particular contract. There's a wizard here that'll help us to create new contracts from either a template or from another project contract. Oops, there it is. And the contract itself has some variables that need to be filled in, such as which customer it is you're going to be billing, what your GL account sets are going to look like. We do have the work in progress, cost of sales, billings, revenue, and payroll recovery are on the account set along with some other accounts. The start and end dates, and in this case, this contract was started in June of 2020 and originally was supposed to end in October. So normally, if this was completed project, which it is, they would have recognized revenue at the end of October. But because the project has extended further, they have decided to carry it on and keep tracking the work in progress and the billings through the fiscal year at the end of December, and they'll recognize it in the new year when they're ready. So we'll just change our projected end date into January 7th. All right, we've set our defaults here. So we've got our time materials, fixed price, cost plus. We've got our different types of accounting methods. And all of these can be set differently depending on each individual phase. Okay. We also have a markup here in case you want to do cost plus. And we've set our different variables. The system does recognize multi-currency based on the currency of the customer, so that your billing is in their currency, and any costs would be accumulated based on the translation from the source currency. So you can see here, these are all the phases or projects that we have attached to this, and they can all be started and ended and billed all at different times, and they can be all recognized revenue all at different times, or you can do it all at one time. This has one purchase order number for everything, so very likely the customer wants it all set up that way. Okay, so then when you get into the tree here, it shows the project, and then we can see the categories as well. So I could have just drilled down to them from the phase level, but I'm just doing it here for now. And you can see that our categories also have estimates attached to them, and units of measure and various other information. This particular one is for a subcontractor, and you can see that we've got the estimate set up, but there's some actuals that have already been billed to us from the subcontractor. and that's sitting here. And in the middle, we have a column called committed. Now this is anything, a purchase order that has been sent out to the, in this case, the consultant or the contractor, but it has not been delivered and it's not been billed to us yet. The advantage here, of course, is if you're getting ready to complete your project and you want to start, winding it up and doing your final invoicing, it's important that you collect all the invoices that are associated with these outstanding purchase orders. We also have the ability to look up our transactions at this level. So here's where I can show you all the different modules that can be associated with entries on these projects. Now, depending on the type of category it is, will depend on what kind of transactions can be associated with it. So for example, in, let's just go to this category level here, management labor is associated with time cards because it is a labor category, whereas subcontractor would be purchase orders and accounts payable. So if I just go here and I go to transactions, I'm just going to say all, then you'll be able to see all the different types of transactions that have been associated with this project or phase. And of course, I can filter it all the way down to even to the resource level. So if I wanted to only know about, say, the subcontractors and I want to see the different resources associated with the contractors, then I can do that as well. So each of these purchase orders, and there's an invoice associated here with this subcontractor, these all have various bits of information. It also have the ability to drill down. You can see here that I've got an item number associated with this, which actually associates with the subcontractor person who is attached to this vendor. So you can get a lot of very detailed information, or you can keep it simple and just work with it in a summary method. Okay, I'm just going to minimize that. Just want to show you a couple other things here. My favorite ones, of course, are the totals and the activity tabs. I can look at these again just by this phase here so that we can see all the totals and where we're at so far with our actuals. And you can see we haven't recognized any revenue so far. I can also go over to the activity tab on this phase and I can see that we have actually received a deposit from the customer. And I happen to know we billed them for more than this, but this is how much they've paid. We also have the ability to support retainage. Now, in builders, they call it holdbacks quite often. And so we can have holdbacks on receivables where the customer keeps a holdback until we finish our job and then they pay out the balance. And we can also have the opposite where we have invoices from vendors and we keep a holdback that we don't pay to them until they've either finished the job, or if we have to have it fixed by somebody else, then we use that holdback to pay for that. You can see here that each of these phases, as well as the contract, has different statuses, and these can be opened, closed, changed, completed. And you can see over here that I have one that's in blue, and that's because it hasn't been open yet. This is still an estimate status, so we can still be working on our estimates at the category level, which then roll up into the project level and then rolls up to the top end contract. Okay. Save that. Now, we have several types of entries that we can do in project and job cost itself. And so here we are with all the different types of entries. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go through all of them, but suffice it to say that they mostly all look the same. So for example, the time cards, the material usage, they all have the same elements. We can, enter in the contract, the phase, and the category. They all have finders. So here's one that we've entered where we've added the inventory item to the contract. And when day-end processing is run, it will calculate the cost. All we have to do is add it to the contract. We can take it out later and do a return. And we can also do material allocations, where we have a storage area and we allocate it to the job as we need it. You can also use purchase orders to order the product and have it directly billed to the project contract. So we have the ability to track equipment usage. We have just regular charges that don't have costs. We have the ability to revise our estimates and do adjustments to the contracts. And we have a budget maintenance that works by fiscal period. In the periodic processing area, we have three main options in here. The first one is that we can update the payroll module, the Canadian payroll or US payroll, using the timesheets that have been logged in the transaction area. And there's actually a special little license so that people can just log into timesheets without going into the rest of the program. We can also do billing from here. So if we issue an accounts receivable billing worksheet, just go to one that I've already done here. Then you can see the system will automatically calculate what is owing on these particular contracts, and it will issue an invoice that we can send over to accounts receivable. This guy is being billed for some equipment, and he's being billed for some miscellaneous charges. Okay, and then you just print your invoices from accounts receivable like normal. Then we also have the revenue recognition. Now this is the usually the end of this accounting cycle. So depending on whether it's completed project and so on. These ones are time and materials, which means, billings and costs and time and materials, which means that I'll have a billing rate and a cost rate for each of these. And as well, I can bill it anytime that I wish. So you can see the revenue recognition creates an entry that moves the cost from work in progress into cost of goods and from the billings into revenue. This one is a multi-currency, so it shows the currency rate that the billing has been processed at. And it moves it over into the GL so that they all match up at the same time. Okay. And then we have quite a series of reports. Obviously, I don't really have the time to go through all of them right now, but I do have, a list of the committed costs that we need to chase down. I've got all sorts of information about the serial numbers and stored materials, work in progress, aged work in progress, profit analysis, and the detailed cost reports. Here, I have just the summary by contract. And if we just print this, you'll see sort of the high level, like an income statement. It can be opened up and printed at the phase level as well as the detail level. And we can see where we are with our contracts. Now this one's almost more of a cash flow because it shows how much revenue we've received from the customer, but as well how much they've actually paid. And we can see that we're in the hole pretty hard here, so we need to do some billing. And this is just one example of the many reports and opportunities that you can have with project and job costing. Okay. If you have questions, please put them into the chat box on the meeting. And you have all the rest of the sessions to do that. If you can't think of anything right now, go ahead and do it on the next session. And the moderator will gather all the questions together. We'll go over them in the last session at 3:20 today. Thanks for attending this session, and I'll see you again shortly in the inventory control. Bye for now.